Okay, now we got to set up the other computer. And is it going to show up? Yes, it shows up. Okay, sound off. What? Yes, it shows up. Okay, we're getting set up here. Do a hangout. It's at 9:45 yet? No, it's not 9:40 yet. 45 yet. I was actually got it set up faster than I thought I was going to. I've got the chat room over across my office on the other computer. I can glance over there, and we're going to see if everything else is going okay. Audio. Yep, audio's working, I think. And I had hoped to have Rob, the 741 show, to be on with me this morning because he does have some background with what I'm going to show you today, which is totally new to me. Well, not totally new, but it's pretty darn new to me. But he's busy. That's understandable. He's still a full-time worker so that I can get my Social Security checks. And we did a private hangout where I asked him a bunch of questions about this unit. And I was hoping that we could follow that up with a live show, but he's been busy. He went to a Hamfest yesterday, and actually he has a show on his channel, 741, all spelled out, about the Hamfest. And it looked like it was a pretty good Hamfest. I saw several things he had in the video that I would have liked to have had the opportunity to buy. We should have a Hamfest locally in Pinellas County, where I live, this month, I believe. And it's a small Hamfest, but in the past, it's been packed. And if you didn't get there real early, I mean, talking about getting there at sunrise, and you wanted to sell, there weren't any spots available. That's what happened the last two times they had it. Anyway, we're coming up on 9:45, so I can, at 9:45, I'll officially start. Although this, like most of my Hangouts, I don't schedule them far in advance. It's just, you know, when I get something that a Hangout will do a better job of recording it than doing an offline show, I do a Hangout. And then I present it just in my list of shows as a regular show. So it's not that important for people to show up, although it's fantastic when they do, because they can give me information, they can correct me on the spot. And so I've got another computer across the room monitoring the chat. And I can glance over there and see if there's anybody in the chat room, which I'm going to do right this minute. Okay, nobody yet. Again, this was not scheduled. I was going to schedule a show, but I needed to make sure Rob was going to be available before I actually scheduled it ahead of time. And he's not available this morning, which is okay. Okay, we are about there. We're going to roll over one more minute, and then we're going to get started. And I was going to say I'll stop babbling. No, I won't stop babbling. Let me get a drink here. And okay, it's 9:45. Hey, how you doing? This is Tom, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show. And I got it early. Oh, where did I kick there? Oh, I just kicked it. darn stand for the camera. I got an early Christmas present from the people at SDRPlay. They were nice enough to send me the RSP Duo. It's a loaner, and this is the Cadillac of their products. And I'll be showing you a few minutes of their website and show you what products are available. And this one is very unique compared to the others, and I'll go into that briefly why it's unique. And so it's running SDR Uno, which right now, and that's one of the reasons I needed Rob's help, with the computer I have right now, or this particular computer I have, I struggle running SDR Uno and Hangout on the air. I can do it, but sometimes you'll hear a little distortion in my audio because the computer is running out of CPU power. So I'm not going to attempt to do that in this particular show. I probably will do that offline where I'm not doing a Hangout. See if that works. I typically can on the previous RSP1, RSP1A was okay, and I could do that. But when I did a Hangout with another person, that was just too much for my wimpy computer. Anyway, so here it is. The most obvious thing about it is it has 3 antenna ports. I wonder where Mr. Finger is. I need Mr. Finger. He's probably down in my workshop, so I don't use my big fat finger. Stand by. No, I'm not going down to my workshop. That would take me half an hour. Here's something that'll do. Probably. So we have 3 antenna ports. This is the high Z antenna connection where you can use like a long wire antenna, so you don't need a balun to match it to 15 ohms. And then next to that is a 15 ohm standard input. And then these 2 are connected to tuner 1. This SDR has 2 independent tuners in it. And then the 3rd port is another 50 ohm port that goes to tuner 2. On this end over here is the USB connection, which provides power and data transfer. And then there are 2 connectors here. If I can raise this up so you can see it, kind of tight. Right there, those 2 connectors. They are used for hooking up a reference. So that if you want to use this as an instrument, which is, this kind of goes above an SDR. It really can be an instrument for lab use and field testing. And you want a calibrated oscillator, that's what you would connect those connections up to. I won't be using it, and most people won't be using it because the oscillator inside is more than accurate for the stuff we do. It's just listed. All right, that's the overall connections on the port. This has a metal case, and it's shielded inside. On top of the metal case, it's also shielded inside. I'm not going to open it. No way. I don't want to risk any chance of breaking it. Okay, let's go. Let's see if I can do a share screen, and then I'll get this mirror effect. So I'll close this down, and I'll go to the page I want, which is, this is the SDRPlay website, and specifically this is the page for the RSP Duo, which is what I'm showing you right now. And it tells you some interesting information about it. This one is a 14-bit SDR receiver, which means it can be more accurate as far as displaying information on the screen. You can have a wider bandwidth and other things. It's housed in a steel enclosure, as I said, and it can operate anywhere between 1 mind you, kilohertz to 2 gigahertz with a bandwidth of 10 megahertz. Now the 1A, I believe, will do the same thing, but this has the advantage of the 2 tuners, which can, as it says right here, can operate simultaneously between those frequencies with a 2 megahertz bandwidth per tuner. So if you're using both tuners simultaneously, and there's 3 modes that you can operate this SDR in. It's like single, dual, and there's a third one which I can't remember. I think it's like a slave maybe. I haven't tried that one yet. And when you use the dual, so you're having both receivers, the software controlling both receivers at the same time, you have to cut down the bandwidth to 2 megahertz per tuner. All right. Pricing is $280 compared to about $125 for the RSP-1A. And then we can look at some of these data sheets. Let's look at the data sheet here. I'm going to go look at my other computer for a second to see if this is coming out okay. Yeah, looks okay. I could, let me increase the font a little bit, or the size, that resize this a little bit so you can see it a little better. Okay, this basically says the same thing up here that we just read. Simultaneously receive on 2 totally independent 2 megahertz spectrum windows. So much simultaneously processing 2 antennas. Now that's the part that's got me excited, because I do a lot of antenna testing, and I like to do side-by-side testing, which with my setups I have right now, the best I can do is use an antenna switch, which means you will have different coax cables connected to the antennas. You could try to make them as much alike as you can, but they won't be identical. And you have the characteristics of the switch itself, which maybe one position is a better connection than the other one. I've done that in the past, and I have to, tell people, hey, it's not totally apples to apples. Where here we're getting a lot closer, because I can hook up, say, HF antennas. I can hook up one HF antenna to this connector and one here. Or I can even hook up 3 antennas, a long wire versus, say, a dipole or 2 dipoles. So, and you can, in the software, you can switch between these 3. All right, that's the antenna connections. Ideal for crossband full duplex reception. Okay, yeah. And you can simultaneously run dump 1090 and VHF ATC reception for monitoring aircraft and like the airport tower. So again, that's the advantage of the dual system and the 2 antennas, because for the dump 1080, which is at 1.09 gigahertz, you'd want a very special antenna, which is going to be really short as far as the height. And then listening to VHF, that would be much, much higher, taller antenna. So that's that. Okay, in single tuner mode, you can receive, record, and monitor up to 10 megahertz wide spectrum. External clock input and output for synchronizing purposes or connecting to a GPS reference clock to get high accuracy. Works with popular EXTIO-based SDR software, such as HD SDR, SDR console. And I believe, although I haven't looked into it, I believe SDR console will work with the dual. Pretty sure it will. And then a bunch of other things. Dual for just 14-bit DAC. Like most other dongles are only 8-bit. We talked about that. We talked about that. A bias T power supply for powering antenna mounted low noise amplifier. I actually had a low noise amplifier that I used on VHF to receive satellite transmissions. It was a little like a fat pin bullet that connected to the antenna at the antenna end, and then you had to supply power to it via the coax. So that's built in. And then here's the connectors again. This is the reference clock in and out. And then here's some spec numbers, noise figures and stuff like that, which I'll be doing some testing. And then some operating modes, single, dual. All right, so that's the spec sheet. Let's go back here. Now, one thing I was hoping, another reason hoping Rob would go in, be here to go into, let me get to it here, to all this stuff. They provide a ton of specs. I mean, they're making this product for commercial use. So they provide a lot of information about the specs, how it performs. There's block diagrams. Now, one thing I'm going to try to do, and really I need Rob's help, is to compare this block diagram with the block diagram of, say, the 1A. Because this, as you can see, has a whole bunch of filtering, which I don't think is in a 1A. It might. And here's some nice charts on the filters. This is the medium wave notch filter you can turn on. Now, on the RSP1 that I had, it had a problem with being overloaded by the medium wave signals. And I had to buy an external notch filter to prevent that from just totally tearing up medium wave. This one and the 1A has this built-in notch filter that you can enable or disable. There's a DAP notch filter, FM notch filter, and then there's all these bandpass filters. I mean, they have really engineered this. Okay, let me go back here. Let's stop sharing. And let's go back to the Hangout. There we go. We're back to the radio. So there it is. You can see it's not too bulky. It is dense. It's heavy. And it's really well packaged. Nice connections on the ports. There's 4 screws on the bottom, which you could, I'm not going to, you could take out, and then it would slide out and you would see the electronics. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to open that thing. I think we're about caught up with what I wanted to do. Again, I was hoping that Rob would be here. Let me go check the chat room. Okay, nobody in the chat room. That doesn't surprise me. And I just see a battery on the floor. Boy, my office is a mess. My workshop not so bad, but my office is a mess. I hadn't used my RSP1A in about a month, and I had taken the connections off to prevent any damage, because we are now entering the lightning part of the year. We get a lot of lightning here in Florida. So I try to remember, always keep things disconnected from power and definitely disconnected from antenna. So I went to hook this up and I'm like, okay, which antenna is which? I've got wires all over the place. I mean, it's a rat's nest. I got to clean up this mess. So anyway, I believe the antenna I've got right now is my G5RV, although I got a tab on here. Where the heck is the screen? I got a little tab on here. And all it says is, oh, okay, it does say it. All right. I read it earlier and it says tip top, which means it's on the peak of my second story. But if I flip this over, it does say HF. So this is my G5RV antenna. So I did get the right one. Like I say, the beauty of this is you can have up to 3 antennas connected at one time. Now, I've connected this, but I ran out of, again, I'm so disorganized, I ran out of adapters. And so on the other end of this, I need another one of, let's see, let me move this over. Get it in the picture here, Tom. There we go, just move the whole thing. There we go. I need another one of these for the other end because this wire here is about 10 feet. It came with my little dipole antennas I got for my RTL SDR receiver. So that gets me around the computers and over across the room to where the other antenna connections are. But since this has another one of these connectors on the end of it, I need an adapter so that I can connect it to the plug that goes to the antenna, this plug here. So I got to find my adapters. I got a number of adapters, some of them down in my workshop, some up here. I'm really disorganized. So I got to get my act together here. So I think that's about it. Again, this is kind of just an introduction. I will be doing a number of shows using this, and I'll do them offline so that I don't run into any problems with CPU power. Might not have any problems. Now, my RSP1, as I mentioned before, I could run the RSP1 and do a hangout by myself. And it had just enough CPU power. I did notice on one of the videos I did, there was a little distortion sometimes in my audio, which is usually the first thing to suffer during a recording. So it was right on the hairy edge. And that was, of course, using a previous version of RSP Duo. And since then, they've added a lot of functions, like the scan function. So I don't know if, maybe I'll try it once or twice offline to see if I can do a hangout and run the RSP Duo software on this guy at the same time. Otherwise, I'll just do all the shows offline and then upload. That's it. Let me see if we got any questions. Nope, no questions. Again, this is me, typical. I don't schedule hangouts in advance, which I do unless I'm going to do a hangout with someone else, such as Rob. Rob was not available this morning, so we couldn't do that. Rob's, he's not retired, so during the week he's working full time, and he has lots of the things he's got to catch up on the weekend. So I understand that. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, I can get some time with Rob because he's had his for quite a while, and he did. Oh, by the way, if you want to see a great introduction to the RSP Duo, go over to Rob's channel, 741, it's called, spelled out, lowercase, 741. He did a great introduction to this RSP Duo. So check that out. That's it. I think I'm going to wrap it up. And like I say, this was just supposed to be an introduction, and this is still new to me. I've only used it for about an hour, so I still got a lot to learn. And it is pretty cool. And this makes a great early Christmas present. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.